It was a wonderful time to grow up. It was a wonderful school. You know, it was in the 50s. Everything was optimistic. It was positive. And it was just a marvelous time. We could walk around, you know, the school. We could walk around town. We were safe. It was a great time.
It was fun and exciting, and it was sort of a home away from home because I thought Mrs. Van Valkenburg was the sort of the mom, and Mr. Clark was the dad, and all of us kids were brothers and sisters. We were all very similar. Pretty much all came from working class families, blue collar workers, and most of us went to church and Sunday school.
Well, you had to pay to go to kindergarten, and so I didn't go to kindergarten. Some of the rich kids that went over by Hillcrest School, they went to kindergarten, but those of us that grew up on the hill on this side, we were not rich and we didn't go to kindergarten.
We had to wear dresses. The girls had to wear dresses. Most of them were homemade. You only had one or two dresses. We could wear pants under our skirts or our dresses on the very coldest days, but that wasn't very comfortable.
You know, boys could wear jeans and stuff, but striped Charlie Brown t-shirts were really popular. Davy Crockett came out, and you know, I wanted a coonskin cap, but you know, that was a little out of my parents' price range.
I didn't have a lot of selection in my clothes. I think my folks picked them out for me. We'd go to Sears for back to school clothes, and I get, you know, jeans there. But I do remember like the brown hush puppies and like Converse shoes.
Well, we really get to wear anything. Like we can wear jeans and leggings and shirts. And the rule that we have is that our shorts have to be like our fingertips, and we can't have short shirts either, and we can't really wear flip-flops because they can come off.
We're English.
We had a few minority students in our class, but I would say predominantly the makeup was Anglo.
Some of the kids would maybe have an accent if they were Dutch. We had some Dutch kids down in the Nookachamps area. But when I came back and when I was teaching in Mount Vernon, we had Latinos staying more often and becoming citizens, and then we had Vietnamese people coming in the mid-70s, and then Russians and Ukrainians, and they brought a richness and diversity to the schools and to the community, which we didn't have when I was a student.
Muchos de mis amigas hablan español en las casas.
I had really good memories of the teachers, I guess those leadership figures. What I recall from class was, you know, just a lot more of the hands-on stuff that was going on. Crafts, again, music.
I tried to bring in extra things to emphasize a particular lesson. And we went to the butcher, watched cows being butchered, and brought back a cow eye and examined the cow eye.
We have two teachers. One of them is a Spanish teacher and the other one's an English teacher. And we do reading and science in Spanish and a little bit of number corner, and then the rest we do in English. In kindergarten it was really hard because I didn't know anything, but like each year it gets easier and easier. I'm kind of good at Spanish.
Technology, we had chalk. You know, actually, just after I went to school, we got rid of the slates. And so, no, we had Red Chief tablets. We had pencils. The overhead projectors came in. Now they're gone, but they came in while I was in school.
At the back of the room, we had one of those huge radios. They were larger than the kids, and we would listen to a national public broadcast about once a week at a certain time of the day. And there was a lot of talk about, you know, going to Mars. We would write stories about going to the moon or going to Mars someday, and we drew a lot of rocket ships.
We had no technology as such, no cell phones or things like that. It was just teach from a textbook. We had a PA speaker in the room that the principal could contact us if there was an emergency. And we could bring a projector in and set up a screen and show films.
Well, I still remember 2 chalkboards. There was a lot of chalkboard writing. We didn't have dry erase boards then. And they would take, when we do cursive writing class, they would take one of these, it was a wood panel, it had 3 strings, and put 3 sticks of chalk, and they would make the lines up on the chalkboard so they could do the cursive. So I guess that was the word processor back then.
The Chromebooks weren't here when I was in kindergarten, and we used computers in library and we didn't have Chromebooks at all. The Chromebook is kind of like a laptop, and we usually use it for like SBA testing or looking up information.
School was fun, but it was strict. We had to obey the rules or suffer the consequences. Of course, you couldn't talk back to the teachers. You couldn't swear. You could use words like gee whiz, golly, jeepers. I think the normal punishment was to sit in the hall, unless it was something more serious than that, and the boys would be swatted for that.
Oh, and then if you got into trouble, I might have had to do this too. You'd have to write up on the board, "I will not talk in class," type of thing, like 50 times or 100 times, and sometimes you'd have to do that in cursive. I might have been up at the chalkboard once or twice in my Wildcat career. That was a dumb exercise. I think some of my fondest memories in the school are like recess time, because for us with recess, it was always a ball game going on, or dodgeball or something like that. And so we'd get a baseball game going, then the recess bell would ring, and everybody'd freeze where their locations were. We'd go back to class, and then we'd come back, and we'd all go back to our spots that we were at, and the game would continue throughout the day.
There were some pipes that came down. I'm not sure what they were for, maybe heating or something, but I could shinny up those pipes and get on the roof if we kicked our ball on the roof. And actually the pipes were still here when I was 50 something. I made it about 3 feet, and I thought, I don't know how I used to do that.
We had a merry-go-round which would go really fast, and I'm sure it was a safety issue because we did try to push each other off and fall off of it and wear out our shoes, and everything was on cement. There was a swing set, teeter-totters, some chin-up bars, some monkey bars.
I remember going outside at recess time and running races with the kids.
We played Foursquare, a lot of Foursquare.
I used to play Foursquare a lot in 3rd grade.
I remember on the playground, if a boy liked a girl or vice versa, we would go kick them in the shins and chase them around, maybe push them around a little bit.
If you liked a boy or a girl back then, there wasn't a lot of hanging out. It was like girl germs, and we had like POE, protection over everything on there. And if a girl touched you, you'd be like, shh, spraying off the germs, shh, spraying off the germs. So the cool thing about intramural sports back then, we played all the grade schools. So like you played Lincoln, you played Washington, and you traveled, like we went down to play the Christian school, stuff like that. And I still remember the very first basket I shot, which would have been the south end rim, and I was just past the free throw line, and I wasn't supposed to be a guy shooting, and Walton was the coach, right? But I don't know what happened, but I just tossed the ball up, and I actually got the shot, made the shot, and all that.
There weren't after-school sports like there are now, not associated with the school as far as I know, but the boys could belong to Little League, I think, which would have been a community team. We did have Campfire Bluebirds and Campfire Girls and Boy Scouts, and that took place here at the school.
I did do safety patrol, traffic safety patrol, yes, 6th grade, and that was awesome because you got to get out of class. I always liked to do the uphill duty because if you did down to 8th Street, it was too quick.
I do student council. Right now we're working on We Care bags, and we put a bunch of different things that people who don't really have a lot, we're passing them out right now because we finished them. And we also have this thing going that's called the food pantry for our school, and kids bring in food, and kids can take food home in the morning or after school.
Madison is a lot larger than when I went to school here.
We had fire drills, and we also started the duck and cover for atomic bombs. And I also remember we had dog tags at that time, which we wore on our wrists, and it identified us and our religion and maybe our blood type. I'm not sure about that. And I didn't understand that that was connected with the Cold War.
The ones I remember is really like an earthquake drill. We would be under our desks, things like that, or we'd do fire drills and, evacuate out onto the recess, make a line with our class.
We practice lockdown drills and fire drills, and we practice for earthquakes. Well, we have two different types of lockdown drills. We have a working lockdown drill that is just lock the door and close the windows, and then we just keep on doing what we're doing. And then the other lockdown drill is when someone's close by to our school and we have to turn off the lights, lock the doors, close the windows, and hide. Pretty scared sometimes.
I befriended the janitor, and at that time we used the big floor machines that had the big disc, and they went around and mopped and scrubbed the floor and then waxed them. But he liked me, and so he let me use the machine once. And the thing was pulling me around the room, because you had to be strong to hold on to that thing. And I was just a little kid, and I think he was dying of laughter, but the thing was pulling me around the room, and I thought it was just great fun.
My boyfriend Jeffrey and I decided to sneak in at recess, at morning recess. And Jeffrey and I undid all the latches on the lunch pails except our own, which was a tactical error. But so when it was lunchtime, the kids came and grabbed their lunch boxes, and the lunches fell all over the floor. And what we hadn't remembered was that the thermoses were made out of glass in those days. So all of a sudden glass is breaking and kids are screaming, and it just turned into chaos.
We had a state trooper come that was an officer friendly, and we all were in the gymnasium at the time, which had the stairs, so we would all sit on the stairs, and that was the same one for the class photo. And then he came in and stood and then gave his talk about who he was. And I just still remember this day just how in awe I was with his uniform and how he looked and the impression that he left. And then I think that was probably my first introduction to the career of policing, and then that's of course what I went into as a profession. So that was way back, and I think that was actually the first grade.
We had a reading assembly, and we were doing like plunge races in the gym. And Mr. Hoare has these like scooter things that you can like go on your knees or your stomach. And we were using plungers to pull ourselves all the way to the other end of the gym. And I won the plunge races.
One morning in 1960 or 61, I'm not sure now, there was a earthquake. And I looked down the hall and I could see the floor just rippling, and the lights were swinging back and forth, and I jumped up and hit the fire bell and got everybody out of the school. You're talking about tearing the school down now. I thought it was going to fall down back then.
We're M, we're M-A-D-A-D-A-D. I-S-O-N. We're M-A-D-I-S-O-N. We're M-A-D-I-S-O-N. Madison, Madison, go Madison.
Gracias por estar aquí. Le agradecemos muchísimo todo su apoyo que nos ha dado la comunidad para construir una escuela nueva aquí. Vamos a estar temporalmente en una escuela nueva y luego regresar aquí en 2 años. Así que gracias por apoyarnos siempre, nuestra escuela y nuestro programa dual que tenemos aquí. Gracias. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate all the support and dedication the community has given to Madison. We'll have a new building here in 2 years. We'll be moving to another building here at Raleigh for 1 year while we're in transition. I want to thank everyone, especially the community, who gave us this brand new building. Thank you very much.